So today we're gonna talk about the New Orleans Pelicans. I mean, honestly, I love this team. I think that they're a very exciting team, but I do think that they're one of the teams which have a lot of questions and just not many answers. First, let's start, with the most interesting news about this team. It's Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson is a player who has been in the NBA for around 4 years now. He's a generational prospect, and he's proven on the court that he really is one of a kind when it comes to the player that he is, how he handles himself. He's a very effective player, scorer, and the way that he impacts a game, making it so that when he's on the court, his team normally makes the playoffs and has a really good playoff seeding just by him being on the court. His on off numbers are insane. Like, his team misses the playoffs when he's not on the court every time. But when he is playing, they normally make it convincingly, as they were the first seed earlier in this year. And this just puts a question up in the air. We see this with a lot of teams, which have injury prone stars like the Clippers, the Pelicans. Even when we've seen that guys like Anthony Davis get hurt, we've seen the team suffer because they don't have anything to respond to that important of a player going down. The problem with the Pelicans is that this seems to happen every single season. In the Zion's first season, it was insane. He was good. He was still figuring it out. In his second season, he played phenomenally. I think he averaged like 26 or 27 points per game on 60% from the field. Something that not even Shaq did in his career, like scoring that much with that much efficiency. And that poses a question like, so really, this guy is good. He is generational, and he does deserve the contract which he got, which was around $200 million. He does deserve the credit that he gets for his game, but the only problem is that he is just a walking image ruiner, and he's just like a walking problem causer for your franchise. I'm not saying because of his spirit, of his personality. The guy's a very jolly dude. He conducts himself very well, and he's always kept a positive attitude towards being in New Orleans, which is something that we can appreciate from a young star who was set to go to New York originally in free agency. But in my opinion, what really stands out from Zion is his antics when it comes to things that matter. Like that, what you do on the court, that's already been proven. Zion, we know that he's a phenomenal player. He's a superstar when he plays, and he deserves max money just off of how he plays basketball. But everything else, it seems like Zion, there's a story for it. When he plays, he's great, but he barely plays because his body's always so out of shape. If you guys don't know, Zion has gotten upwards of 300 pounds in his career, and he is 6'6", which basically makes him very injury prone. Like, you see, normally when a player's 300 pounds, they'll be 7'1", or even if they get close to that, they'll at least be like 6'8", 6'9", and that's a freak of nature, right? Like LeBron, who got to like 280 at one point of his career, and that was his peak when LeBron hit 280. Zion, at his youngest, he's hitting 280, 300, and the problem with him is mostly his diet. I know that a lot of people like to talk about, oh, diet, it's so important, or some people like to say, oh, but you can eat whatever you want, as long as raw skill outshines the bad diet. But we can say that for a guy who gets most of his career off of how high he jumps, his diet matters. If you guys don't know, when you jump so high, right, he has like around a 50-inch vertical. And When you jump that high, right, where it's 46, 45, when you come down to the ground, that is your entire body weight taking all that force and all that inertia and hitting the ground with it. That's why you see that normally these really athletic dudes don't make it many years in the league without getting a serious ending injury, right? We've seen John Morant be able to do it, but John Morant is very lean and he doesn't have enough muscle to cover up this, you know, to cover up himself. He has to stay skinny for that. We saw it with Derrick Rose, where it was the same thing. He kept himself more, skinnier, and eventually that caused him to have a season-ending injury, right? Then we saw it with guys like, Greg Oden, who just couldn't keep themselves on the court. And even though he was really athletic coming out of college and he looked very good, his body just couldn't take the NBA level. So it is a mix of, first, can your body take the NBA level? Because without load management, you are playing 82 games. There's some games which there's back to backs. And when you do get to rest and just chill and just go home, right? Are you actually resting, or are you still practicing, or are you going out? What are you doing when you are supposed to be rehabbing? We don't know. And that's a problem that we've seen recently in the NBA. We've seen that a lot of these guys, they'll have this idea of rehab and they'll have this, understanding of what their body should be, but really when they make the NBA level, their body can't take it. And that's been a huge issue, especially with the recent draft class, where it's like, can your body withstand 82 games of straight dominance from the other team, right? Like every single NBA big man is really strong, and I say that confidently, or at least they're strong enough to, lock you up if you're a player coming in from college, unless you're like Shaq or something. But with that being said, going back to the Pelicans, Zion is their biggest problem. Zion is their biggest problem. But what we do have to say is that the rest of the team, it looks phenomenal. And I'm saying this because I know that Zion is such a sad case because he's the superstar and he's what gets them to be a playoff contender. But the rest of the team looks awesome. Like the rest of the starting five is CJ McCollum, Herbert Jones, Brandon Ingram, Jonas Valanciunas, and maybe Jackson Hayes, but I think he just got sent off to the Lakers. Trey Murphy also, and Trey Murphy, Jose Alvarado, and they have just a bunch of guys who can actually get it done. In my opinion, New Orleans as a team which has a superstar, they're phenomenal. They've done one of the best building jobs in the NBA of building a good team around a superstar which you drafted. And I like that. The only problem with New Orleans is that after you've built this amazing team for your superstar, how many games is he going to play? And let's face it, no one in the league except LeBron can give you what Zion gives you on the court. A bulldozer who's dominant, who can get at people. But the problem is that when you can bulldoze, score, and do all of that, can you keep your body healthy enough to play most of the games, or at least 50 games this season? And it hasn't looked like that for Zion. Zion looks rough because, in my opinion, you could tell that he wants to play. But with all these situations about his health and how that's impacted him, we need to talk about, is there a bigger problem here with personality? With Ja, we saw it, that he has a great worker's mindset, right? But he likes to live lit, he likes to have fun, he likes to push the boundaries. But with Zion, we could see that he's more modest. The only thing is that you could tell he doesn't have self-control. And that's something that, in my opinion, he needs to work on if he wants to be a superstar. Like the whole situation that happened with his weight, and I'm not going to talk about the other situation because I already made a video about it. Like, in my opinion, Zion needs to be better and control himself better.